So when the French player rolled over here, his charge failed to go in because he got a bad command response roll. But for the purposes of illustrating this video, let's go ahead and assume that the charge went in. So what we had was we had 2 brigades of cavalry that had declared a charge against this square. So when they go in, they can choose a couple of formations. They were already deployed in line. If they had enough actions, they could deploy into column and both charge and both hit the square side by side. Or they can charge in line formation, one behind the other, and this is considered a wave charge, in which case both will still get a chance to break the square. Or they could have, if they had 3 brigades, the 2 back brigades could have been in column formation, and that would have given you 3 chances to break the square. So, a charge that involves cavalry versus infantry, especially infantry in square, is a little bit different because the crucial factor is whether or not the cavalry can break that square. Generally speaking, infantry that were in line in a square were fairly safe from enemy cavalry. Cavalry would hit, bounce, swirl around the outside, hack a little bit if they could, but generally they couldn't do very much to affect the enemy. In this case, they've got 2 units here, so we're going to see how that works. So first thing we're going to do is defensive fire. Now, the cavalry, when it started, was basically back here. This battery can fire defensive fire to support the charge, in ignoring this cavalry in front of it, because you can always fire in defense of a charge or support a charge, whether you're the defender or the attacker, regardless of attacking formation. So, the cavalry itself has no fire bonus, so just the battery is going to fire. Back here, it can fire at any point in movement. We're going to say it can get up to here, which is going to be effective range. It can't get to point blank, because by that time, it's out of arc of fire. So it's at effective range. That's going to be normally a chance 4. And because these guys charge in line, it's just going to hit this front unit. So a chance 4 against this front unit. But it misses. Now the square itself will also fire. Now, this is elite infantry. They're normally 3 points per stand. It's 12 points total. And a square can fire up to 1/2 of its fire potential in any one direction. That's why they kind of face corner on toward the cavalry, so they can get both lines, both sides to face forward. So that would normally be 6 points firing. It would normally be 12. Half for half the square is a chance 6. A 9. Again, some crappy rolls for these guys. Now there's no offensive fire for the charging cavalry, so it's just going to be the chance to break square. When you look at your cheat sheet at the bottom of the command and movement table, there's the modifiers to break square. The base chance is 1. So this is heavy cavalry, so it gets a +1. That makes it a 2. No casualties were inflicted on the square. The defending infantry isn't shaken. There's no infantry charging the square. They're not demoralized. The cavalry's not conscript. But the defending infantry is elite, so it goes from a 2 back down to a 1. So that means the chance to break that square is only a 10% chance. So the first unit rolls to break. It fails. It would basically just fall back, and the second unit would roll to break. It rolls a 2, close, but it doesn't break either. Now this is what would happen if one of them had broken. If this unit had rolled, and it had broken that square, then both of these brigades would have been involved in the melee. If this one had failed to break and dropped back, and this one had rolled and did break, only this brigade would engage the square. This brigade would not be involved. Now in this case, neither one broke the square. Now in the standard 4.1 version of the rules, if you fail to break a square, you have no chance of inflicting casualties. In the new rules, there is a chance. Basically, if you fail to break the square, you still get a 1-point chance per stand, but only for the second one that comes in. So it's just going to be a chance 2. So it fails to inflict a casualty. Both units are going to bounce out of small arms range, which is up here to 3 inches. So they're outside of small arms range, and that concludes that attack. Alright, so that's how cavalry versus infantry works. Again, this is a fairly simple one. There are more complicated versions, but that shows how a cavalry charge against a square would work. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this demonstration. Kind of running short on time, especially if I want to get some of this on YouTube this evening. Also, it's taken a little bit longer than I'd expected, and I'm getting a little bit hoarse, so I hope that this was helpful. We've been able to examine most of the mechanisms in the rules. We've covered how command points are generated, how they're issued, initiative. We've been able to cover regular fire and small arms fire for infantry and artillery. We've been able to execute a couple charges, infantry against infantry, cavalry against a square. We've done a firefight in the center. We've talked a little bit about how the flank marches work. And speaking of that, the Prussians seemed like they were pretty heavily outnumbered in this game, but that's because they put a very strong formation in their flank march. They put it on their left flank with the idea that they'd get some good rolls, the French would attack this flank, and they'd be able to bring the flank march in behind them. Unfortunately, they got some bad rolls at the beginning. The flank march didn't come in soon enough. Right now they have 18 points. They just rolled a 6, which brings them up to 24, which means they're not available this turn. They've got a little bit less than a 50-50 chance of the flank march coming in next turn. But it's hard to believe, even if they were successful, that they would be able to retrieve the situation. There's just too much going on here. They've already punched through on the flank over here, and they're putting a lot of pressure here in the center, so not sure if the flank march would have worked. But they put 2 light cavalry brigades, 2 line infantry brigades, a half brigade of light infantry, a half battery of horse artillery, and a full battery of light artillery. So they committed about 30% of their total force to that attack. So anyway, again, I hope this was useful. If you have questions about something, you can ask in the comments section, or you can email me in the my email address is in the description of the video. Okay, anyway, I hope that this was a little bit useful for you guys. Do a quick sweep of the battlefield so you can see how everybody ended up. Some casualties on here. The French player did still have an elite infantry brigade, not deployed. Didn't need it. Everything else on the board was pretty much dummies, except there was a conscript infantry brigade for the Prussians backing them up. Not a lot of help in the center, but something. Anyway, if you have questions, email me. My email is in the description. Or you can ask your question. If it's a simple question, I can answer it in the comments section. I'll be happy to do that. Again, hope this was helpful. I appreciate you tuning in. You have a good day.